It is a deeply frustrating and often exhausting experience to wake up every single morning and realize that a person who is no longer an active part of your life is still taking up so much space in your mind. You might find yourself going about your daily routine, doing the laundry, driving to work, or simply pouring a cup of coffee, and suddenly, without any warning or invitation, a thought of them crashes into your consciousness. Feels as though your own brain has betrayed you. You want to move forward, you want to let go. And you might even rationally understand that the connection is over and that it is for the best. Yet, despite all your logical reasoning, their memory lingers like a persistent echo. To understand why this happens, it is absolutely essential to stop judging yourself for it. You are not weak, you are not broken, and you are not fundamentally flawed for being unable to simply erase someone from your memory. What you are experiencing is a very normal, highly documented psychological and biological response to separation and loss. When you form a significant bond with another human being, your brain undergoes actual, physical changes. It is not just a matter of fleeting emotions. It is a matter of profound neurochemistry. During the time you spent with this person, your brain was flooded with a steady stream of feel-good hormones. Dopamine, which drives the reward center of your brain, spiked whenever you saw them, received a message from them, or even just anticipated seeing them. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, created a deep sense of attachment, trust, and safety. Over time, your brain essentially became wired to associate this specific individual with happiness, security, and reward. When the relationship or the connection ended, that steady supply of neurochemicals was abruptly cut off. You are quite literally going through a biological withdrawal. Just like someone trying to break a deeply ingrained habit or overcome a physical dependency, your brain is craving the source of its former dopamine hits. It sends you memories, dreams, and sudden thoughts of them as a desperate attempt to get you to re-engage with the source of that reward. Understanding this chemical reality is the first step toward giving yourself grace. It takes time for the brain's neural pathways to weaken and for your neurochemistry to return to a baseline state. Beyond the biological withdrawal, there is the psychological phenomenon of the highlight reel. Human memory is highly malleable and deeply flawed. As time passes after separation, our brains employ a psychological defense mechanism known as fading effect bias. This bias causes the memories of negative emotions to fade much faster than the memories of positive emotions. Right now, your mind is actively tricking you. It is selectively filtering out the arguments, the disrespect, the fundamental incompatibilities, and the very real reasons why the two of you are no longer together. Instead, it is playing a continuous loop of the absolute best moments. You remember the way they laughed, the late-night conversations that made you feel understood, and the moments of profound intimacy. Because you are only looking at the highlights, the version of this person currently living in your head is a flawless, idealized phantom. This version of them does not actually exist in reality. It is crucial to ground yourself in the objective truth of the entire relationship, not just the heavily edited movie trailer your brain keeps playing. When you catch yourself romanticizing the past, you must deliberately remind yourself of the difficult realities that accompanied those good moments. Another significant reason this person remains anchored in your thoughts is the lack of closure. We are conditioned by society and media to believe that every ending comes with a neat, logical resolution. We think that if we can just have one final conversation, get one sincere apology, or hear one clear explanation, the attachment will simply dissolve, and we will be free to move on. This is one of the most pervasive and damaging myths about human relationships. The truth is that closure is not something another person can ever give you. Even if they were to explain their actions, their reasons would likely never feel satisfying or sufficient to justify the pain they caused. Relying on someone else for your own peace of mind gives them an incredible amount of power over your present reality. True closure comes from within. It is an internal decision to accept that the situation happened, that it is over, and that you no longer need their input to make sense of your own life. Waiting for them to provide you with a sense of resolution is a subtle way of keeping the connection alive in your mind. You must also recognize that you are not just grieving the loss of the past. You are mourning the loss of a potential future. When we connect deeply with someone, our minds automatically begin to project forward. We imagine the places we will go, the homes we might live in, the milestones we will celebrate together, and the quiet comfort of growing older side by side. When the person leaves, they take all of those unlived tomorrows with them. The grief you feel is complex because it is anchored in things that never even had the chance to happen. It is incredibly difficult to let go of a dream, especially one that felt so incredibly real and within reach. Every time you think of them, a part of you is mourning the ghost of that future. You have to allow yourself to grieve these unfulfilled promises. It is a real and valid loss, but it is also a narrative written entirely in your imagination. The future you envisioned was a projection, and you now have the deeply difficult but necessary task of writing a new narrative for your life that does not include them in the cast. Furthermore, the presence of this person in your head is often heavily tied to your own sense of identity. Over the course of your time together, your lives became enmeshed. Your routines, your social circles, and even your self-perception were likely influenced by their presence. You may have derived a significant portion of your self-esteem from their validation and affection. When they left, it created a massive void not just in your schedule but in your understanding of who you are. The lingering thoughts are partly your mind scrambling to figure out its own identity without them serving as a mirror. To evict them from your mind, you have to actively rebuild your relationship with yourself. You have to rediscover the things that bring you joy entirely independent of anyone else. You have to invest time and energy into your own personal growth, your passions, and your individual goals. As your own identity becomes stronger and more defined by your own values and actions, the space this person occupies in your psyche will naturally shrink. We also cannot ignore the simple, stubborn power of habit. Human beings are creatures of habit, and our brains are highly efficient machines that love routine. For a significant period of your life, thinking about this person was your default state. You thought about them when you woke up, you reached out to them throughout the day, and you considered their opinions when making decisions. Those thought patterns carved deep, well-worn grooves into your brain. Now that they are gone, your brain still wants to run down those familiar paths because it requires less energy than forging new ones. When you are bored, when you are tired, or when you are feeling lonely, your mind automatically defaults to the easiest, most familiar thought pattern, which is them. Breaking this habit requires conscious, deliberate effort. It means catching yourself when your mind starts to drift down that old road and gently but firmly steering it in a new direction. It means filling your life with new stimuli, new people, and new routines that force your brain to build new neural pathways. It is also incredibly common to use the memory of this person as an emotional buffer against the discomfort of the present moment. Sometimes, holding on to the pain of a past relationship is easier than facing the frightening vulnerability of the present. Moving on means stepping into the unknown. It means accepting that you are entirely responsible for your own happiness now. It means potentially putting yourself back out there, risking rejection, and being brave enough to start over. The memory of your past connection, even if it is painful, is familiar. It is a known quantity. It is comfortable in its own strange, melancholic way. You have to ask yourself a very difficult, honest question about your current reality. Are you holding on to them because they were truly that exceptional, or are you holding on to them because it gives you a convenient excuse to avoid fully engaging with the frightening, unpredictable reality of your life right now? Recognizing this dynamic is often uncomfortable, but it is absolutely vital for true emotional liberation. You must also understand the concept of unresolved emotional loops. Sometimes, a person stays in your head simply because you have not fully processed the emotions associated with the experience. Perhaps you are still carrying deep-seated anger about how you were treated. Perhaps you are carrying guilt over mistakes you made during the relationship. Perhaps you are harboring a profound sense of shame or inadequacy because you internalize their departure as a reflection of your own worth. These repressed or unacknowledged emotions act like anchors, keeping you firmly tethered to the past. The brain will continually bring the person back into your awareness until you actually confront and process the underlying feelings. You cannot simply shove these emotions down and hope they disappear. You have to sit with the anger, you have to forgive yourself for the mistakes, and you have to aggressively challenge the false narrative that their inability to stay is somehow proof that you are unlovable. Processing these emotions takes immense courage and often requires writing it out, talking it out with trusted friends, or simply allowing yourself to grieve until the heaviness begins to lift. Another deeply ingrained reason we hold on is the fear of finality. As long as you are actively thinking about them, agonizing over what went wrong, and playing out imaginary conversations in your head, the connection is not technically dead. In your mind, they are still present. Fully letting go means accepting the absolute, undeniable finality of the ending. It means accepting that they are a stranger now, living a completely separate life that you know absolutely nothing about. That level of finality is terrifying to the human heart. Feels like a kind of death. So we keep the mental wheels spinning. We observe them from a distance, we ask mutual friends about them, or we simply obsess over their memory because doing so provides an illusion of continued contact. To break free, you must practice radical acceptance. You must look the reality of the situation squarely in the eye and state to yourself that it is completely over. You must accept the silence. You must accept the absence. It is only in the total surrender to that finality that true healing can actually begin to take root. It is also highly probable that you are confusing the feeling of love with the feeling of attachment. Love is an active, ongoing verb that requires mutual participation, respect, and shared effort in the present moment. Love is nurturing, supportive, and grounded in reality. Attachment, on the other hand, is a clinging to the past. It is a desperate desire for things to be the way they used to be, regardless of how unhealthy or incompatible the reality actually was. What you are experiencing right now, as they live continuously in your head, is not love. It is a deep, lingering attachment to a memory. Recognizing this distinction is incredibly freeing. You do not have to stop caring that they existed, and you do not have to pretend the connection meant nothing, but you do have to stop labeling your current suffering as an act of love. It is simply the painful process of detaching from something that your mind once perceived as essential to its emotional survival. The physical and digital environment you surround yourself with plays a massive role in keeping this person at the forefront of your consciousness. If your spaces are still littered with reminders of them, your brain is going to be constantly triggered. Keeping the gifts they gave you on your nightstand, wearing the clothing they left behind, or having hundreds of photos of them readily accessible on your phone is exactly like trying to break a powerful habit while keeping the temptation directly in your pocket. You are actively making the process much harder than it needs to be. You need to create a clean environment that supports your healing. This means packing those items away in a box and putting them entirely out of sight. It means muting or blocking them on digital platforms so that their life updates do not constantly ambush your peace of mind. By controlling your environment, you are giving your brain the quiet, uninterrupted space it desperately needs to regulate itself and build new associations. There is also a profound psychological truth about human attention that you must internalize. Whatever you water will inevitably grow. If you spend 3 hours every day dissecting the past, analyzing their behavior, and wondering what they are doing right now, you are actively watering the weed in your mind. You are signaling to your brain that this person is still the most important, relevant piece of information in your life. The only way to stop the intrusive thoughts is to gently but consistently redirect your attention elsewhere. When the thought of them arises, you do not need to fight it, panic, or get angry at yourself. Fighting the thought only gives it more energetic weight. Instead, acknowledge it simply and objectively. Recognize that the memory has surfaced, and then immediately shift your focus to the physical reality of the present moment. Focus on your breathing, focus on the task in front of you, or focus on a conversation with someone right in front of you. It is a practice of mental discipline. It will be incredibly difficult at first, and you will have to redirect your mind 100 times a day, but over time, the thoughts will absolutely lose their momentum and begin to wither from a lack of attention. Ultimately, the reason this person is still in your head is because you have not yet fully realized that you are entirely capable of filling the void they left behind. You have convinced yourself that they provided something unique, a specific kind of joy, a specific kind of comfort, or a specific kind of validation that you can never find anywhere else. This is a fundamental underestimation of your own resilience and your own capacity. Everything beautiful that you felt during that connection was generated within your own body and your own mind. They were merely the external catalyst for those feelings, but the capacity to feel them belongs entirely to you. You have the power to create a life so rich, so deeply engaging, and so thoroughly aligned with your own authentic self that the memory of this person naturally fades into the background. It is not about forcing yourself to forget them or pretending the past did not happen. It is about building a present reality that is so incredibly compelling that you simply no longer have the time, the energy, or the desire to constantly look backward. Healing is a slow, unglamorous, and often non-linear process. There will be days when it feels like you have taken a massive step backward, and that is a perfectly normal part of the human experience. Just keep walking forward, keep deliberately investing in your own life, and trust that with consistent time, distance, and intentional effort, the space they occupy in your mind will become smaller and smaller, until one day, they are nothing more than a quiet, distant chapter in a much larger, much more resilient story.